Going to be about the chronology, starting with the very first maps that humanity is supposed to be presented with, and then we're going to go through what is supporting evidence for resets and the idea of a time of vapor canopy, because some of these maps, the world is a green and arid place with very big beasties and very big people, and we're going to be looking into that a little bit later, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know how Jason's going to feel about it, but you know, towards the end of my little presentation, I was going to try and make you all laugh a little. See how that goes.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
I seen some of your videos when you shoot the shit and do all that. Yeah, man, you got the floor here.
So what if they're a little bit rude? Is that permissible?
Hey, you know what? When I'm off camera,
They won't be bad.
I'm off camera. I'm a pretty uncouth bastard myself.
He's uncouth. So. Oh, okay then. All right, then we'll give you that. So, without any further ado, so we're going to go through the chronology. I'm going to show you some mysteries. I'm going to show you various images along the way, and I'll explain it all as I go. So do buckle in. I hope you enjoy Martin Flat Earth British's chronology of, mappages. So we're going to start here on the earliest one we know. Let's just see if that's showing up on my phone. Each should be. Give us a second. Okay, it's not showing up, is it? Oh, there it is. Hang on a minute. Well, there it is. So we're good. We're fantastic. So what you're looking at here, guys, is the earliest map that they have presented to us, and it is a Babylonian tablet with cuneiform on it, and it is a very unusual map. What are they thinking at the time? So what I'm going to present along the way is I'm going to explain to you and show you how we, or they, have not got a map of this place. The standard Mercator map which we used in schools, etc., over-exaggerated things like Greenland, or under-exaggerated continents like Africa. So these maps are politically motivated, you could say, where they inflate countries, but all the while it's displacing millions of square miles of water that are just covered with fictitious lands on the maps. They say that the only realistic maps we have in the modern day are the Gall-Peters map, which show thinner, slender continents. But regardless of that, we haven't got a map of this place. And there's a big question with the cartography, like, how did they pull this off? How did these wooden ships manage to go every single cove around the entire plain? And, you know, when, you know, for example, the north is supposed to be covered with tundra and snow. Yet you got, you know, really detailed cartography of Norway, for example, which is a fantastical thing. So the idea is, in a lot of academia, is they have been borrowed, these maps, from earlier cartographers, post or pre-reset, I should say, cartographers. And what these, some of these Middle Ages maps that I'm going to go through, you will show, is a completely different realm. Nowhere is where it's supposed to be, and America and other places look completely different. So this is the earliest. What is their frame of reference, and what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at a T. So I'm getting the gist of what we're looking at here possibly is maybe Asia and Europe. There's a center bit, so is that meridian possibly? And I noticed there's a line at the bottom, but overall it's in a circular ring, which could be, you know, their idea of the ice wall that goes all the way around us. And these pyramidical things which you see on a lot of early Middle Ages maps, which, you know, could be, you know, sort of gates or what have you. But it's a very interesting map. I'd love to be able to read cuneiform and find out exactly what it says, but there you go. So what you find in these early maps is you do not see any snow anywhere in the world. No snow. Africa, as you can see here, is completely green. The Middle East, completely green. The Gobi Desert, completely green. Everywhere in this world is completely green. There doesn't seem to be any deserted areas or even any ice except for this. But this is an Oriental 1500s map. But it's really intriguing because what you got here is, if you can make out the whole of Asia, and I guess in this is Great Britain and the Iberian Peninsula. What this is here, I'm guessing, is the Americas, but I'm not actually sure, because You know, at the top bit, it looks like, you know, the Bering Straits, but the rest of it, this is supposed to be North America. I'm guessing this is Central America, and I'm guessing this is South. But South America doesn't belly out like that, have a large lake and a large island in the lake anyway. But it is down, you know, near this, what looks like an icy region, which is what they call Antarctica, which I, you know, do not think is what they're saying whatsoever. So what you find predominantly, only at certain periods in the maps, is it's showing island California. I can't imagine what academia explains this away on numerous maps, but it definitely shows that at some time in the recent past, California was an island.
Yeah, these maps I've seen.
Yeah, So the standard narrative, they you know, they're not hiding the fact that, you know, that there was greenness and beasts in Antarctica. You know, Graham Hancock, he explains in Fingerprints of the Gods. Which is over by there. Actually.
I have fingerprints right here.
It's behind the shirt. Yeah, so he explains how Pierre Rees, the Turkish admiral, had maps which showed a green. And populated Antarctica. What Graham Hancock says is Pierre Rees have stated or decided to stay in that he got his cartography, his maps from much, much earlier. So if he's a Middle Ages cartographer or map maker and he says that he's got these from earlier cartography, then we're looking at old world maps in some of these examples. You know, what you get is a definite distinction between cartography. You get this Middle Ages. The only way I can explain it is a whole lot of nonsense. You know, it's really poor cartography, or this is the world that really was. You know, that there's a really messed up and very southern Hudson Bay, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Look, California's separated on this one as well.
And how far out is it as well? And you got the same islands in there.
Man, that's far off.
Yeah.
That brings the Pacific all the way into like Texas region.
Yeah.
El Paso, see?
Yeah. So what do you make of that? Because it's like, you know, it's either messed up cartography.
I just drove through all that and did a video explaining that this looks like it was just recently underwater.
Well, look, this is what this looks like, doesn't it? It looks like all of this, you know, and
that's
then
amazing.
I'll show you later on, right? Examples of a mud flood of a topography in Oregon.
Arizona and New Mexico looked just like they were underwater just a few centuries ago.
Yeah.
And I was videotaping all these anomalies that looks like a massive amount of water very quickly just rushed through this area.
So that's there.
And here it is in the map.
Yeah. So that is that's a messed up, you know, Middle Ages map. It's either really poor cartography or that is the world we're looking at. Now I got this one for you, Jason. I thought you might be interested. You may not have seen this, but it's an old map of Cairo, and what it shows here is the pyramids of Giza look like mesas or possibly giant tree trunks. So there's the Sphinx, here's the 3 pyramids of Giza, this is the Giza plateau, and the other pyramids going further south. Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
Why it shows them on stony mesas, and all of these look like they're tree trunks anyway, don't they? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously, it's not deserty, really, or it is maybe in the distance. But yeah, I can't imagine why they're on mesas or what looks like tree trunks. I haven't got a clue.
You know the root in Giza means stock of a tree?
No.
The root word in Giza literally means the stock of a tree.
Oh, isn't that
interesting? And I'm telling you now where I got this information. Listen, my first published book is Lost Scriptures of Giza, and I went deep into the etymology of everything related to the Great Pyramid. And one of the things I pulled up, and anybody can see it in like in a Strong's Concordance of the Bible. You can look at the Aramaic and the Greek and the Hebrew lexicons, and everywhere you see Giza is derived from Gizeeh. When you look that word up, it is the stock of a tree, and it says, for example, a pillar.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I never knew that.
That's crazy.
So, these maps are an illustrated photographer work from like 1490s, so they're really, really early. You haven't got a specific meridian with what you find. Like the meridian today that we've got is Greenwich Mean Time, isn't it? You know, the 0 point, and that's used for all mariners. But in the past, meridian has been, you know, suggested to be Cairo or the pyramids, and in other narratives as well, that Jerusalem was once Meridian. But what you see in these old world maps is this. Now, the Iberian Peninsula is full of glittering buildings. It's all green and lush. There is no deserty bits or Arab bits. North Africa, this is Barbaria, as you can see here, and what would have been, you know, the Carthaginian Empire way back. But what you see is a load of what look like European style palaces. Yeah, it's green, and it has mountain ranges, one of which is called Kong. There's a Lake Kong there today, where the mountain range is no longer. And you get deeper into the Libya interior, and you've got what are essentially deciduous trees. So this place is a completely different climate, and, you know, full of these palaces, none of which are there, you know, today. If they are, they're in the sand.
Yeah, the only architectural structures in all of sub-Saharan Africa are the Zimbabwe structures. You know what I mean? So,
well, isn't it interesting that this is North Africa, but the people are white, Caucasian, and they're naked, and they're being chased around by really large beasties. Look at the size, human-sized birds, yeah?
This is Voynich manuscript type stuff.
It is very similar. I'll show you an example of the Voynich, a clue I found with it a bit later. But indeed, it is. You get a lot of giant beasts, a lot of, well, cryptids you see as well. But yeah, look at the interior.
Did I get copies of this in those 55,000
Oh, you
files?
got all of this.
I got all this?
All of this.
Man, you guys are in trouble.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, yeah, so it gets to the standard sort of Mercator type projections a little bit later, you know, when you're coming up to the 1700s. As you can see here, you know, this is a really interesting map concerning Tartaria, Grand Tartary, because it actually includes India, Persia, Arabia, and the Levant, the Holy Land, and Japan, and Southeast Asia, and New Holland, which is interestingly what they once called Australia, is also the same colour as Tartaria, which sort of suggests that Australia, at some time in the past, would have been Tartarian territory.
Again, what is the date on this map? Because California is completely separate from
Indeed. So I've been trying
the continent.
Yeah. So what you find is a couple of these. You know, I'm going through these maps. The first thing I check for is dates. Okay. I can only see by Mapamond that we're looking at somewhere around 1710, around that era, and it's still showing as Island California. Yeah, I can't even find a transition point. Now, we got like 4 Great Lakes. I can't see Lake Erie, maybe. But other maps, there's no Great Lakes. Some maps, only 4 Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes only appeared in maps after the 1620s.
Yeah, exactly. And Hudson Bay is always like really deformed, and like it doesn't look like that on modern day maps anyway. And this great extremity at the top of Canada, northern Canada, it's like what the hell is it really? You know, but yeah, you can see that half the world even then was Tartaria. Let's just see if I can pick it. Yeah, 1714. That's not bad for dating. I was 4 years out. There, 1714. J714. Yeah. Actually, yeah. So I was 4 years out on my guess.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I can identify dates on maps. So this one's a nice early one. Okay, and it's showing what you find is it's upside down maps. I think it's a clue myself, you know. I think all the juice is in the north at this time, and you get a predominantly, you know, like you're looking at the realm, but you're looking at it from a North Pole perspective. You're looking down the earth, and that's how a lot of the old world maps are actually shown, guys. Yeah. So as you can see here, you know, Europe is upside down. Half this map is all of this map is upside down until you get to Africa, and then it shows you the right way up. So I think there's a clue with the map showing you to be upside down, and you get these strange compass points here, and you know these navigation lines and all of that. I can't work out, you know, what these designate, you know, with maritime navigational rules. I can't work it out. I really can't. They just look like they're nodal points being mapped to me. So here's a nice juicy early map, but it shows you all of this going on. Now it's either keep out signs, don't go to Antarctica, there's nasty stuff, but what it does show is, you know, a sort of Christian idea of, I'm guessing, beating evil with the knight. You got the Gorgon type affair, half serpent with the lizards in her hair as well. and Diabolus, so you got the devil, who's got like 3-arrow thing going on, and death. But you got the Moors here for some reason, which is interesting because the Moors are attributed to being Tatarians. What date we got on it? Something there says 1317. That could be a page number. But all of that's supposed to be happening in a place that's full of ice on maps. But the map is closer to what you see on a Mercator, today's Mercator, which I'll show you are exaggerated in every regard. So this is a really interesting because it gives you some language. It gives you Persian language, and it gives you...
Diabolus is Latin.
Yeah.
So there's some Latin in there too.
Yeah. So the only interesting thing I want to just point out for later on is if you look here, there's a giant lake here in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. So just draw that to your attention for something I'm going to show you later on. But again, you've got Island California. I can only see four Great Lakes here. I can't see an Erie, and plus they don't look like that. Lake Superior is facing this way. The lakes are all perverted. They don't look that way, is what I'm saying. Okay, so there's something going on with the cartography for the Great Lakes. The rest, sometimes you see an under-exaggerated panhandle. In others, it's a lot bigger. You know, it's something going on with that. Maybe Florida was a lot bigger in the old days, and then that terrible flood happened. Okay. So early maps also, you can find images and paintings actually online of people standing by the lakes in Australia in the early 1800s. So apparently there was an inland sea in Australia which has been mapped. An inland sea in Australia which has been mapped. Okay? Now this part up here of Northern Australia is sort of swampy and jungle-like, but, you know, it's dried out. But that just sort of shows that this place was completely different and inundated at some stage. The waters have receded. Phoenicia, the Phoenicians, the mysterious sea people that appeared and sort of occupied this era, and then they've just dispersed out into the whole of society where they do their evil works. Let's just put it that way. But that's where they were. So it's the Holy Land was all Phoenicia. And Cyprus was a Phoenician colony as well, and that's where they were.
They said all of Carthage was settled by them.
Yep, indeed.
Carthaginians.
Yep.
Cyprus, Sardinia.
Yep.
Sicily, all of them was settled by them.
Well, Haisha, I seen a book about early Haitians. Haisha in Caribbean. Haisha, Phoenician, and the language is phonetics, and they were there very early on in the Caribbean. So this is a really interesting map. Western Canada.
This is
1768.
4 years after the 1764 Phoenix reset.
Well, that is interesting.
It's 4 years after.
Because everything looks completely different.
It's completely different than the earlier maps.
Yeah. So I'm guessing this is the Bering Straits, and Alaska's coming over predominantly too far west. Doesn't look like that. And you got, like, where's the Fox Archipelago? Is it this year? I don't know. But it makes no sense. It looks nothing like that. But then you got all this strange bashed up topography down here. Yeah. So that's a really interesting map. The world doesn't look like that at all.
Not right now.
Not anymore.
And nor would it if California had been reattached.
So I wish I could find the source for this map so I could verify it a couple of times. It looks crudely made. So, you know, I'm going on like Africa looks messed up and everything else looks messed up. But you've got all of this, which is super interesting because it shows Antarctica populated, named. You know, they know all of the names, so they've gone to the effort to do that. There's this large city here, Phoenicia here. Maybe that's where they originally came from, and then they just populated the Levant, you know, and the mysterious sea peoples turned up from somewhere. Terra Sancta, sanctuary. That is interesting. And you get a lot of sort of Phoenician sort of, you know, phalanx and sort of Phoenician Roman, what you call it. Names. So why they went to the effort to map all of that, which is supposed to be south of us, but it's all around us, is beyond me. Again, early American. Florida is where we are now in Texas, but all of that part of America was called Florida. It was populated by not exactly what you might call Native American Indians, more 6'4" Caucasian people is what the early explorers actually discovered. So what's that body of water? So there's a large body of water that is in basically west of Texas. It is literally all the way to California. It looks like to be finishing where maybe the San Andreas Fault is. I don't know. But there's a giant inland sea in America on this map.
And there's not a hint of the Grand Canyon here, which should be on a map because the Grand Canyon is 277 miles long and many, many miles wide. Okay. So every map should show the Grand Canyon if it was there at that time. Because I was recently at the Grand Canyon, and I'm telling you, when John and I went onto that glass deck, there's a glass deck you walk out on. It's 4,000 feet above. So listen. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, don't jump up and down.
I'm going to tell you something about the Grand Canyon that I immediately noticed. If this, according to the uniformitarian theory, this is supposed to be millions of years old. And if it is, why isn't the bottom full of rubble from all the earthquakes, boulders?
Yeah,
you can see boulders sticking out both sides.
That's a good point.
And they're like nothing holding them. It's like it looks like you can take a hammer and hit them, and an avalanche will happen.
That's mad.
So if the Grand Canyon is so ancient, why hasn't all this rubble shaken loose?
No, man, it has to be recent.
It's very recent. It's very recent. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing thing to see. So yeah, that's interesting. It's not mapped.
Yeah, it's 277 miles long. It should be on all the maps.
So what we see here is Oregon, and I'll show you the example that this map has come from. It's a beautiful silver plate, early map dated. But where Oregon is a giant inland lake. They got it named. There's islands inside, which on other maps are also named. And on the topographical map, which you can see here, is this area here would have been a lake. And there is a depression there. But also, if you can see by here, these this brown bit is mud flats. There's literally a recorded mud flood in Oregon, which you can do research about, an official version. Yeah, so where they're connected to sea. And I can't help thinking this is what's happened with California. There's just been a huge event. It's literally decimated the southern states, and the mud flow has connected, California, which is by where the San Andreas Fault is today. Some sort of mud flow all that way. So this is a Kirster map. You know about Kirster, don't you? You've found out it is. So it's a post deluge map, but what it does show is the tides, and what it shows is a giant landmass above us, which you're going to see on Mercator maps, and the famous Mercator projection of 4 continents in the North Pole. Are they there? Are they not? How the hell can we know, guys? And all the volcanoes as well, which are definitely a player. The Ring of Fire is definitely a part of this mechanism. Like you said about volcanoes being a part of the artificial mechanism. So this is the Japanese do some absolutely stunning maps, but this one here is showing what looks like an arid, dry, free from ice, because there's supposed to be miles and miles of ice flow all the way to the ice wall. So how would you get in to actually do any cartography? Maybe they got high-end lasers or something, or ground-penetrating equipment to do this all cartography, because they manage to do all the little islandlets and chart out all of this coast of whatever this is. And Tierra del Fuego means, land of fire. So, this place is icy. So, okay, maybe volcanicity.
Damn, it's called Del Fuego? And they're
land of fire. And yet it's in what is supposed to be,
You're right.
Yeah, land of fire. So, and then you've got these large beasts, it's populated with beasts. If you see anything on YouTube, they show you some weirdo there, like Patriarch Krill or something. Go and look at some penguins. Although penguins are epic, but there got to be more going on, okay? There got to be more going on. I can see some anomalies as well with India. I'll show on some other maps. But what we got for America is 0 in the way of... I'm not sure if that one big blob there is a Great Lake. It's on the River St. Lawrence, it must be. So we've only got one lake. And everything's looking green. Everything is connected up by here again. And Mexico City is a circle here. We're going to look at that image of Mexico City and wonder what the hell is going on with that a little bit later. But America looks a damn sight bigger on this. This is supposed to be... What's all this? Why is... Okay, so this is Mexico. This is California. So what is all of this greenness over here? Almost as if there's no Pacific and we're connected to the, you know, Asian continent.
Yeah, man.
So how is that? I'm guessing this is the Rockies there, yeah, which it is. And then you've got all of this land, which is not actually there, is it, in the modern day? All the way to Papua New Guinea. All that land. So that's a bit unexplained, why they would go to the effort to, you know, map out somewhere that's not there in the modern day. Really peculiar one, that. Very, very interesting map, that one. Here's a cruder Middle Ages map. This is 1400s, okay? And it's always biblical themed because, you know, they show you the Red Sea is a Red Sea. But again, green and pastured North Africa. There is no Sahara Desert at this period. This looks to be attributed to the Knights Templar because of the red crosses. So this is Jerusalem's marked up. So we're looking at, this is depicting the events of like the 1300 and, you know, the Crusades, etc. Okay. But again, you know, if this is, you know, this is the early discovery of America time, apparently, but they managed to do some decent cartography on the Caribbean and the Venezuelan coast all the way down for this far to the end of the chart. They haven't done any more. So that is a really early piece of cartography. All of this in America is, you know, I reckon it was underwater later, which is why, you know, the waters, you know, receded. So they call it, you know, Columbus narrative, bullshit. And then it's like, oh, we got the new world, let's populate it. When in fact it's the old world. It was there all along. It's just been messed up and underwater. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's going on. So an old orbis map here of America. And as you can see, you got this giant continent at the bottom again. Well, obviously, you know, Antarctica doesn't come up to the Tropic of Cancer because basically it would be subtropical. And that's not happening with Antarctica, is it? So, you know, Terra Australis, they're saying, that's another name for as well for Australia, but Australia's not connected to Papua New Guinea at all, but it is on this. And very, very populated Antarctica down in Tierra del Fuego, and the cartography seems to be a bit misshapen, but you get it here and it's all back together again. So California's back and it resembles what it looks like in the modern day, but again, no Great Lakes. How can you miss the Great Lakes? They're the biggest lakes in the bleeding world, and they're there. So, yeah, River St. Lawrence goes, like, absolutely nowhere. No Great Lakes. They could have been later mining operations.
Yeah, they're bigger than, like, the Sea of Azov and a bunch of those seas in the Central Asia and Middle East and stuff.
Curiously, though, they're that big, but they have no tides. So they're that bigger bodies of water that have no tides, proving in my head that there's no correlation between the moon causing any tides in this place, which is the case. So,
damn, I never thought about that. The Great Lakes don't exhibit tides?
No, nor the Black Sea, nor the Caspian Sea.
Nor the
biggest
dead,
lake in the world.
Nor the Dead Sea?
No.
Nor Lake Livingston?
No.
Lake Conroe?
No.
All right, man.
No tides. No tides on lakes.
No tides.
No, man. Another interesting thing is icebergs. Even though, you know, people say, you know, they're real or not, I think they have, but they're made of fresh water.
Yes, they are.
So where's all that fresh water going? So you get on these sort of maps. Mercator definitely, you know, did this sort of imagery as well of hostile giants usually waiting. You know, look at the size of them in retrospect to the ship. But they've literally got maps of these 4 continents. Yeah, they're populated. One's populated by pygmies. The rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, like replicated names of what's in Persia, which is really interesting. And you get down, it's getting a little bit more like what you'd see today. And California's all connected. What this east to west mountain ranges, I'm not quite sure, because the Rockies go up that way. Is that the Appalachians? No, that's further south. Oh, can't work that out. But anyway, so they show you these lands above, which a lot of people have said, oh, it's all there. You know, we can't go there, guys. We can't go there. I've shown, if you watch the Next Level movie I was in, they show you imagery on there of some guys that tried to go just sail in with their sailing boat to North Pole, only to be met by a Norwegian destroyer, which threatens to blow them out of the water if they don't turn around and go away. Why? Why can't you just sail in what is supposed to be a frozen ocean? Everything's covered up. So using an early parchment made of animal skin map, Christian themed again, upside down half of it. But what it is showing, and this is a late 1400s map, so America hasn't hardly been discovered yet, but yet they've gone to the effort to do this rough cartography. You can see it's not defined at all, but it's massive. It is a massive undertaking, but really crude cartography. What this pyramid is here, I don't know. It's a giant pyramid where Southeast Asia should be.
Is that Southeast Asia or Indonesia, Australia?
Well, that would be Indonesia, yeah, or Borneo, that sort of thing, Sumatra. But yeah, so there's giant bodies there, so I'm guessing they're the islands. But why that one's a pyramid, I do not know.
It's a pyramid with an eyeball.
Yeah, it's a pyramid with an eyeball. I wish I would clear up a little bit. But yeah, that's a really early parchment. So this one's an early azimuth equidistant, so it's looking down from a North Pole perspective. So what all of this green bit is up here, I'm not quite sure. This is Scandinavia. Doesn't look like that anymore. So this is a bit crude, but it does show the Americas. What we get on a lot of maps as well, guys, a lot of added islands and lands like High Brazil off of Western Islands, and Grönland, and no, that's Greenland. Friesland, excuse me, and there's giant islands out in the Atlantic which are no longer there today. And again, it's a really, really populated North African coast. Some terrible thing happened to the Mediterranean. I feel that this wasn't always a giant inland sea, because that's what it is.
Nope. I got a lot of material on my own channel how it was a series of freshwater valleys, and it filled up when the Strait of Gibraltar. See the Pillar of Hercules over there?
Yeah, sure.
It broke free and sent a 400-mile-an-hour tsunami of the Atlantic, came in here and washed over Sicily, and archaeologists have found the destruction. It hit Malta and knocked 40-ton blocks in Malta over a mile and laid them all out on the ocean sea.
Shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that definitely happened.
There are over 300 stone cities below the sea in the Mediterranean.
Wow. And
this has been published by David Hatcher Childers. It's the subject of several scuba diving books.
What do you make of the Antikythera device that was found?
It's found in 1900 by sponge divers off of Crete. They didn't know what they had, and they put it up for a year. And in 1901, somebody took it out, and they cleaned it off, and they realized, holy shit, this is a differential geared computer type thing.
The cogs were really minute, like a Swiss watch.
So this in 1901, it became public knowledge that they found some type of unique star lab or something. But in 1902, they actually cleaned it all the way up, did a scientific analysis of it, and found some Greek lettering on it, and they realized, okay, this is about 100 BC, and it was designed to predict the motion of stellar bodies forward and backward in time. It's pretty interesting.
So it's an astronomical clock.
That's basically what it is.
How could they do that? How could they even know?
Well, I say it all the time. It takes us 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider.
Yeah, well, that's
because I'm going to tell you now, the Antikythera computer, the technology required to manufacture a differential geared mechanism like that is more sophisticated than the mechanism itself. Wow. So we're talking about they must have had a hell of an infrastructure around.
Yeah, proper real machining. Yeah.
They were doing machine parts in 200 BC.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I dig that. Yeah, that's crazy.
No doubt.
So this is a fantastic map. This got found by Rod Skiba, R.I.P., who found it in the Ramsey Library.
Rod Skiba found this map?
Skiba just shit out of nowhere. I was absolutely spewing, wishing I'd found it. So how do you find that? I'm always in Ramsey's. But he showed that with it, yeah, Rob. And it's the Urbano Monte map, the 1590s map, and it just shows, you know, there's many YouTube videos where you can see this thing being decoded, okay, guys? It shows you the 4 continents in the middle. It's really good cartography for such an early period. But the most defined things are all of the continents, or all of this greenness, all the way around us, which show numerous beasts, numerous... cryptids, etc., Sinosauria and Bellinis, that type of thing. So sorry I can't clear that up. But Urbano Monte map, look for that online. You can get some, you know, high definition downloads and check it out. Go in close. There is 1,000,001 things you can discover with the Urbano Monte map. It's fantastic. And it's a flat earth, azimuthal equidistant map. Shows all of that stuff all the way around us. Is that the case? Did it get covered in ice? Here's a really early. Interesting, you see people here going into architecture with torches. I don't know what that would signify, but an early azimuthal equidistant. And you've got the Great Lakes. Everything's not connected in the northern part. Is it possible that all of this bit is still underwater? I'm wondering.
Yeah, could be.
Because you can see this green bit over here. I'm guessing that this is Greenland here, this top bit here, but nothing in between has been mapped, which is really interesting. And the green of this Grönland here going all the way to the North Pole. Now, for a start off, you know, the Danes calling Greenland Greenland when it's supposed to be really white and a really high elevation, so nobody can live there, is green when they arrive there. And you can see that it goes all the way to what is the apparent North Pole. Now, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting why they would do that? So nice cartography looking down, you know, from North Pole perspective. They nailed that one, and you know, really good quality work. 1700s, yeah, I think it's 1704 or something like that. 1724 with that one, guys. So really, you know, the cartography comes on tenfold, but you know, this stuff is like rudimentary, really rough, but they get the shape of, you know, Africa. But again, it's looking down from a azimuthal equidistant perspective, and what you do not get on any of these is an Antarctica. And a really unusual South America, which is just whited out, no definitions, and North America is not actually on there.
Hey, Nicholas James Adderton, you know him, don't you?
Yes, Nicholas, yeah.
He says, man, I remember when you had 50 subs, man.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah, you've been around a while, brother. Flat thumbs to you, much love.
That's great.
Yeah, so isn't it weird how many of these show, when you get the island California, you get the Great Lakes missing at the same time, and this weird sort of Hudson Bay affair. So no Great Lakes. The interior seems to be unmapped, and then, you know, a really well mapped island California, which is just weird. Why didn't they teach us about this in school? Is beyond me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Listen, if they've gone 3,000 and 4,000 miles into the interior of South America to accurately depict the riverbeds and canyons that way, then we have to assume that California was totally accurate as well.
Well, I do.
Look at that.
Yeah, I really
California is an entirely different. It's entirely different island, man, but it's huge. It's almost continent size.
So yeah, North Africa. Today is Sahara Desert and Arab-like, but in the past it's apparently more European themed. You can see these giant palaces, but they are definitely Moors, or what you call Muslims at that period. But all you can see is like European style kings, and as you can see, the power in this place at that time is Caucasian, and not what it is in one day, but they are Muslims, as you can see. And then the map turns upside down. You can see this giant tower, which I'm suggesting I think is probably maybe Babylon. Well, it's not. It needs to be further east. But anyway, green and pleasant, full of European architecture. What's going on? This is a nice little depiction of Africa. Somebody's gone to the effort. That's much more what you'd expect. The thing is they got everything growing there and everything they need. You know, that could happen for us, guys. You know, if you imagine that.
Okay, mine just now.
Oh, right, that's it.
Now they can see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Imagine being able to, you know, everything was fruit and tomatoes and everything just growing in all of the streets. So the food was free for everybody. And, you know, you could just walk past and get your food for the day, which would be completely possible and really easy to do. But they don't do it, did they? So I don't know, show what's going on up here. This sort of landscape looks really unusual. And one thing I can see is this giant arch and what looks like a building where there seems to be some sort of battle, which has been shattered, which has been ruined. In the background here, exactly the same sort of architecture up in the north, but that's what looks to be the west. So that's a really unusual medieval map. And there's the classic Mercator, where he's mapped basically polar Antarcticus, which is Mount Meru. Many people think there's a magnetic mountain in the centre. I proposed myself that I thought it might have been somewhere in the region of an upside-down pyramid, a bit like what they get in the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno. Okay, with the upside down pyramid, the journey to hell, something along those lines. That is like a car speaker which gives off an acoustic frequency which keeps the dome in place, because sound keeps water in stasis and there's always some sort of hum in this place. But you know, that's just the nature of simulation. So you get these deltas. These are mapped by, you know, pygmies live in these ones, giants live on one. So there's these 4 continents and they're all surrounded by mountains. Can you see that? And then there's narratives out there that it's the Garden of Eden, and you know, vibrationally it is there and you can only perceive it if you're pure of heart. Yeah. This is a land, Friesland here. This island here is no longer there, and it's south of Iceland. Iceland's still there, a messed up place, volcanized wise, but this Friesland no longer there. Greenland, it's green at that period. No ice, no snow. And this part up here, there's loads of stories. The story of Olaf Johnson, who sailed to the North Pole. When he went past the North Pole, okay, it was like a summer's day in Amsterdam. A spring day in Amsterdam, so it was warm. Also, he went on a wooden ship and all of the nails just came out of the ship, ping, 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 because there was a great magnetic force there when they got closer to the North Pole. So, you know, it's many, many questions with these maps. You know, why you go to the effort to, you know, remember, this is an ocean. It's the smallest ocean on Earth, is the Arctic Ocean, but it's an ocean. We know nothing about it. None of us are ever able to go there. The aircraft are not doing it, flights, etc. Nobody's looking at this place, but they tell you it's a frozen ocean. But it's only thin in the middle because a nuclear submarine from Russia can come up. So in official narrative, they're not hiding the fact that the Sahara Desert...
I'll be right back.
Okay, brother. The Sahara Desert was once a lush and populated place, okay? So something completely apocalyptic happened to this place, guys, and turned it to dust. I have theorized that this was probably... there was an epic war, possibly, like Tartaria and Phoenicia, and electromagnetic weaponry, like the fasces, for example, turn this place to dust, because it is dust. It's not sand, because they have dust storms. It's not sandstorms, it's dust storms in the Sahara. Okay, red dust, very, very fine. So this is apparently from 300. It's a later, obviously, map. This wasn't when it was made, but it's supposed to be Baghdad 300 AD, and it's just a round circular city which looks like something from a circuit board. For the ancient world, you got the exact same circular city for Jerusalem on the map of Monday from 1290, which I was going to show you, but it came out too short, too smaller image. So they tell you this in official narrative, that this was what Europe looked like, and Britain would have been in this massive, you know, land belt. Doggerbank or Doggerland, so you were able to walk across from England all the way to Denmark and all the way to mainland Europe through just across the land. Okay, Doggerbank is certainly there today. It's a sandbank you've got to dodge when in shipping when you're in the North Sea. But this is, you know, there. Don't take a notice of that ice shelf 1600, because I don't go with Ice Age and I do not go with glaciation, you know, carving up the land. That was an event, that did all of that. and rapid. So they have brought remains up from Doggerland. There was definitely a civilization there, but Jason was telling me from a book we were going through. There's one narrative that East Anglia was built on the deposit of bones, like human bones, and sort of vegetation and stuff. What was that about Norfolk, Jason? What was that book we were going through, where Norfolk was, this part here's Norfolk in England, was built on top of bones, was it?
Oh, from 1834.
Yeah, from 1834. What was that all about? Because I was mad. That's it there.
Oh, the one I did a video on.
Yeah,
I showed all the paragraphs. Okay, that was 1871, and he was disproving. He was showing that the Ice Age was, all the data for the Ice Age actually meant something else, and the Ice Age was false.
Yeah.
And he was publishing that in 1871, saying the uniformitarians were lying. It was actually a huge flood that came through the area, and that Norfolk is like 60 feet of pure clay on top of a bed of animal parts, where the animals were all glued together, and they're all megafauna with human skeletons, and the entire stretch of ocean connecting Europe to Norfolk in the UK.
It's mad.
Is like where all the organisms that were bloated and floating in the world from the flood ended up at Norfolk and then went down, and then water came over and clay buried them. And it's one of the largest coal seams in the world.
Wow. And that's Norfolk. Yeah, they call it's just completely flat, Norfolk, and they got the part here which is always flooded called the Fens, which apparently got dug out in the medieval period.
Yeah, on the surface topography, Norfolk is like unremarkable, but the geologists have found that underneath Norfolk is one of the richest fossil beds for megafauna in the world.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So this might upset a few people in Britain, but it's just tough. So years 500 AD, apparently Britain, okay, was predominantly Welsh, according to this map. Now later, when apparently the Saxons came, apparently this place, the island was called predominantly. You had Wessex in the south. We had Mercia, and Mercia, Mer is sea, and so the place was called Mersea, like the sea. And then on this map, it shows you that most of mainland England and Wales and Cornwall and Devon, all the way to London, really, was Welsh speaking, a Welsh territory, and the Welsh language has been crushed. Yeah, when I was young, people were telling me that when they were in school, they were punished if they were caught speaking their native language. So that's not good. So I'm not sure what's happening here. Oh, it's a weather report. Okay, it's going to get a bit. What's going on there? What the Sorry, I don't know where that come from. It just slipped out. No, I didn't mean that the way it sounded. Okay, sorry.
Oh man, that's terrible weather report.
Sorry, it's a bad weather reporting. He should have thought about what he was doing. Maybe,
but he's a weatherman. I'm pretty sure he was wrong.
Yeah, it's only a prediction. So this is an interesting little Dutch map that they use as a projection in the war. And basically, it's an azimuthal equidistant, but again, it shows you an ice wall all the way around. There's no Antarctica. Exactly the same thing as they show you on the UN flag. Okay. Now, this is the most interesting thing. If you watch my channel, you're going to know that I've picked this thing apart 100 times. We've tried our best to decode it. The Phoenicians are present. But it's, the Divine Comedy. If you think of, the jester is always the most intelligent person in the royal household, okay, in the court. The king tells him most stuff, but he makes jolly because anybody with a sense of humour shows intelligence, don't it? But there's so many clues. We had some of this Latin deceit.
I can't even show.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Here.
It's showing. You can see it.
My whole leg is nothing but jesters.
Yeah, he's got jesters tattooed on his legs.
My whole leg. All this is a jester. Look at this.
Coincidentally.
Look at this. All this is a jester.
Whoa.
I got jesters all the way up my whole leg right here. But yeah, the jester was always like the spy of the court. He's the one that knew everybody's business.
Yeah, man. The most intelligent there. So interesting that, this Latin, we've actually had it translated, and it essentially says, this place is not what you think.
What?
Yeah. This place is not what you think, it says in this Latin.
Wow.
And also, you know, this thing, there's so many clues in it. You've got no Great Lakes, but California is linked, weirdly. But this middle bit here is directly over the North Pole. And then it shows these two bells coming off. And in one of the bells, or this thing here, is what looks like a luminary that is sort of like magnetized, or not even connecting, if you know what I mean. You know, there's 1,001 clues with the Fool's Cap map. This is what it's essentially telling you that, you know, this isn't a Tirias map, so the projections are going to be totally off anyway, but it still shows this continent that's coming up as high as the tropics, which would be hot, you know, there and there, which makes no sense in the modern day. But yeah, no, we've been following these coding systems, these interlocking systems, these things you can see here with these Phoenicians on there for quite some time, and they are detailed codes for decoding. There's a bigger image you can find that shows you what all of these gold coins say. Okay, and there is stuff in Latin written on all of them, and it's all very cluey indeed. But essentially, it tells you that the realm you're living in is not what you think. No shit. So use an old Chinese map. They're doing the same again. The old ice wall all the way around us, and the land masses of, I guess, in Asia, Africa, and Europe in the middle. But again, ancient Chinese cartography is showing essentially a flat Earth map with land all the way around, with what looks like tropical trees, so, or ice or whatever, but stuff all the way around us. So this is an interesting map. Now, Square and Stationary Earth, Orlando Ferguson's famous map, okay? So there's issues with it, you know, because it sort of shows that it's a cup shape, which sort of shows that it's going like concave. But that's only the contour lines, okay? It's an optical thing. It shows you a third luminary over the North Pole. Not a pole star, a third luminary, which is really interesting because there could be something blacked out up there which causes weird ass eclipse, because I can tell you the moon ain't showing up to do that. There's no correlation between them both. And it will show you the four angels on the corner of the square and stationary Earth, as I've proposed many times. I think that this is, you know, a key to basically the torus field structure, or the electromagnetic structure of the model of this place. But you were telling me about the elliptical plane, or the equatorial plane.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be where this bit is.
That's where all the movement in the heavens is.
So it's there.
Right there.
Yeah.
The object of Phoenix in 1764 in the month of May, seen by 500,000 Europeans, it came straight out of the north and passed over the south. And the rest of the scientific community ignored it because they say no objects can move like that. And yet, astronomer Hoffman recorded that in his telescope, and 500,000 Europeans watched it happen in the sky.
It's interesting how there's like sort of ice all the way around and everything is lower, but it's essentially a flat Earth map. There are many mysteries.
Wow.
So you can see what you see on a load of Middle Ages maps is giant sea creatures that seem to be eating boats, and these giant whales, no problem. Humongous sea creatures that are bigger than a galley. They're just no problem eating them. And apparently sailors are really, really scared of all of this sea creatures. I even got warned myself when I was in the merchant navy, watch for the sea snakes. They can pull you over. I was like, what? Really? Apparently it's a thing. So this is a vortex, okay? A whirlpool, a giant whirlpool. That is off the coast of Norway. It's there today, but I think it was much, much bigger. And it would swallow ships. It would swallow ships. If you went too near it, you would be sucked in and swallowed up. So is that a reality, that you've got animals and critters that big? Well, I'm guessing if it was a sort of vapor canopy type affair, that would not be a difficulty to have things that big. I'm not sure what the red man is there. It's a bit weird. So that is the coast of Norway. And obviously it's a lot more knobbly than that. That's poor cartography. Here is from mind-blowing this is, because this is Norway and Scandinavia from a Kirchner book, the 1700s, and what he's showing is this. You get to where Lapland is, so it's supposed to be really, really cold. Going from that famous vortex, which I just showed you in that Middle Ages picture, which is sheer. So then there's a subterranean tunnel which goes the whole length of Lapland from Norway to Finland. It's 1,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can see them in the south as well, connecting up the Caucasus. Giant underground tunnels, which are mapped. And I can't help thinking, because this tunnel ends where that whirlpool is, that there's some sort of connection. You know, that might be, you know, whirlpool. You know, might be even a way to the inner world. You know, that's what they show you in Pirates of the Caribbean, guys. He goes down a wormhole. And in Wizard of Oz, how does she get to another dimension? She goes into a twister. Yeah. These vortexes, I think it might be some sort of technology. So here's that steel plate.
You know, the Bermuda Triangle, that's what the pilots were reporting, that the sky is corkscrewing.
Yeah, that green
fog. It's like the fall. It's like the clouds all of a sudden break off into a two-dimensional picture, like they're just painted, and they just start corkscrewing. It's like the whole. That's why I believe we're in a simulacrum. We're in an artificial construct. Yeah, exactly what you just said. The vortex is corkscrewing.
I really do think that's what they're using to, you know, to jump. I really do. And they show you in numerous movies. If you remember, years ago, I followed a American series, Time Tunnel, when I was a kid. It was one of my favourite programs ever.
You must be old. I ain't never heard of that one.
Yeah, Time Tunnel used to go in the Wild West or ancient Rome. And they used to go through basically a vortex. So, yeah, this is that steel plate photography I was mentioned earlier. But it's got this giant lake where Oregon and the other states are supposed to be, which is not there today, but it's mapped. So that place there was still underwater after the flood. So this is a Gleason's map. We all know the Gleason's map. You know, it's been, he says it's accurate, but it's been debated for years now. It's quite boring. But somebody said to me, I thought it was interesting, is the letter Q a clue? Put it over a flat earth map and see what happens. So I did. I put Q over the Gleason's map, and it lines up with exactly where Tierra del Fuego is, and what is supposed to be the way to Antarctica, or Western Antarctica. It might be, is the Q a clue? Who knows? So this is interesting. This is an old map, but it shows you the Imperial Palace in Beijing, in Peking, okay? But it says Ville de Tartary, because at that time it's Tartaria. But you see Ville the Chinese, which seem to have a lower sort of power, but they seem to be there. I find it interesting the Chinese are worshipping Temple of Sol, Solio, you know, so they got a Temple of Sol, so it's Babylonian type beliefs, and it overwhelmingly, it also looks like it might be something to do with the inside of a computer. I'm going to show you some mind-blowing images in a little while. You may not. There, now. So what we're looking at here is basically a graphic or a pencil drawing of the inside of a computer, central processor, cooling fans, heat sinks, and the rest. No, actually it's not. This is an artwork of Rome by Piranesi in the 1700s. Okay, yeah, it's identical because we've matched them and we've layered them on Flat Earth British, and they are literally showing to be just like computer circuit boards.
Thank you, Desi, for the donation to Martin. And those of you who donated, mention Martin's name. Don't worry, he'll get it out of me. Say, don't even worry.
I appreciate that.
If he doesn't eat it in steaks tonight, he'll smoke it. I promise you.
I'm not that bad. I haven't even had one for hours. Anyway, so you know what your central processor looks like in your computer? Yeah, it's got the same four angels type of affair, like the structure of this place, but that is not actually a computer component, although it's identical. Again, it's a Piranesi artwork showing Rome.
That's amazing.
It is mind-blowing, and you can literally is identical to a central processor of today's modern computers. So were the layouts of these ancient cities, which we've proposed now for quite some, about 3-4 years, basically circuit board, basically computing? Were cities computing or commutating, or are they even making the simulation that we find ourselves in? Something could be generating it. What's going on with Mexico City? So Mexico City is the center bit. and the rest of it's got a giant sea around it, full of ships, so I'm guessing it's really big, and then this green surround full of towers and cities all the way around it, and an adjacent lake. And that's not what you find in the modern day, although, you know, Mexico City's a ridiculously big city, and this bit was in the center. So just a crazy layout. I can't imagine what they're thinking, but again, nothing like what they show you or tell you in the modern day. Kirchta again. Now I'm going to show you this because later on you're going to see the significance of it. Is this aquifer, which is under the Gobi Desert, which is the depression over the Gobi Desert, which is regarded as the eye. Okay, it's a giant desert, and it just makes no sense. It's a great depression in the landscape, which you can see on the maps. But on Kirchta's maps, it's a giant underwater aquifer, maybe 1,000 miles long.
Kirchner's maps is an aquifer, but in other maps it's an open sea.
I'll show you now. No, it's a dry Dust Bowl desert in the Gobi Desert. I'll show you what I think.
So what happened was, at one time it was full of water, and then it imploded. It emptied of water.
Yeah.
And it became the dry area.
Without showing you the pictures that I got to go with it, essentially that, yes.
Okay.
You're going to see.
I'm just logically thinking it out.
So this giant aquifer, again, maybe 1,000 miles in diameter or more, is under the Amazon rainforest, right? It looks to be man-made. It's so cylindrical. I bet it's a giant aquifer. It's been mapped by Kirchta. He hasn't included Antarctica in any of his works, but he shows you the Suez Canal there before it's actually 150 years before it's actually been built, showing their lie-in. So again, Piranesi, Giovanni Piranesi's artworks. He shows the post-reset world. He witnessed it, and he shows you, you know, Piranesi's prisons and Piranesi's Roman architecture, which shows you a shattered, smashed world. So all of it looks like computer code, you know, components. All of it is very, very sophisticated mathematically, you know, but yet we're looking at the plan for ancient Rome, apparently.
Somebody says they don't see any mention of star forts on any of these old maps.
Well, that's what we're just getting to. Somebody's right on the money for the next image was the star fort. Somebody's sinking us. Somebody's sinking.
Yeah, somebody anticipated us.
Yeah, star forts. So I'm going to talk about these. These I'll show you on many. These are everywhere in the world. Okay, guys. They are super futuristic technology in the past.
I agree.
They make no sense for the narrative. The official narrative is these were built in 1600s, 1700s, a little bit earlier, maybe in Americas, but they were supposed to be bastions, okay? A defensive place for armies to be. But unfortunately, these exhibit fractal geometry and cymatic patterns, all set at different frequencies. It is super stealth, super reflective, because these sloping walls could deflect the way that a stealth bomber technology does. Yeah, sound waves, maybe some sort of electromagnetic weaponry, or water. I think these things could be underwater. So all of the maps are completely wrong and off. The standard Mercator they give you in a school, okay, is this map here, which they teach you with. They show you the Greenland is this massive, massive thing at the top of the map. But in reality, it's only 1/14 the size of Africa. So you've got to imagine if Greenland's only really that big, what about all of that displaced water, this non-existent land that they show you on the map? What's happening there? Everything is politically motivated on the map. You know, powers get bigger countries. Like Britain looks all like it's the center, you know, like it's a really big island, but it's not. It's a really, really small island. Probably wouldn't even be visible on the world map. It's just everything is exaggerated. So there's more of Piranesi circuit boards. And we find an atlas and a collection of atlases, but they were for giants. This is a giant book. Needs two people to hold it up. Okay. I've also got a collection of photographs of giant music books that apparently have been written by giants. So they're just huge. Why they made the effort to make a giant book that human beings our size can't really read. You know, you can't lift that up, can you? You know?
Gaia Sonoma Readings.
Yeah.
Said, excellent. Thank you, Martin and Jason. Send a picture of a half-pound steak.
Nice, juicy. I had the best food ever here, guys, and the weather is fantastic. fantastic.
Jahara was real clear to say my donation was for Martin.
Oh, thanks, thanks, brother.
My moderators are turning on me.
Oh, that's nice. So yeah, many places like this is Palmyra, but many ancient sites. Pasophilis will show you that the bird's eye perspective is, again, you get like what looks like a circuit board. Again, like a central processor in the computer and heat sinks, and it all actually maps out. So the ancient world seems to be like doing a circuit board city, and I think the modern cities are doing pretty much similar today. Okay, so some of these, this is the Viennese, this is the Vienna star fort, which is very unusual because it only shows one church machine inside the star fort and some sort of buildings here, but this town seems to be missing. What you see in here is entrenchments outside leading up to these star forts, which to my mind would be, if from their sort of explosives or cannonballs, what they're saying at the time, just bounce off these things, guys. It's just not for the world that they say they were built in. These are higher technology. These are super futuristic fractal technology. Okay, so this tower you can see on the left is in Iran, and the image on the left is out of the Voynich manuscript, which is anomalous. We don't know who the author is. We don't know. I feel that it's a definite watery theme, and I think it's a Phoenician theme, but they do show large plants, large fauna, and large animals in the Voynich manuscript. So it could be just a post-event text which they're showing us, but that might be a clue because there's water inside this, and this could be some sort of water tower looking from above.
Yeah, the Voynich manuscript is still mysterious. There are still videos being put out by people saying they've decoded it and all, but I'm just telling you now, I'm not putting my stamp of approval on any decodes of the Voynich manuscript at this point, because I haven't seen anything compelling. I just see a lot of guesswork. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is United States military cryptologists have the most sophisticated software in the world, and they put the Voynich manuscript to the test. And let me tell you something: they can't make heads or tails out of this manuscript, other than identifying their pattern recognition search has identified enough to know that this is a definitive language. There's communication going on here. They can see the patterns, but what it is, they have no idea. So yeah, these videos all coming out talking about we decoded the Voynich and all that. Listen, you guys already know my mantra: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yeah, that's good point, that is. So as you can see, star forts are always built on water. They seem to have an islandlet in a lot of them in between, and basically the water is fed into them. So the water is part of this circuitry, but as you can see, this is advanced technology. It's fractal, bursting out by nature. It's got a stunning fractal geometry included in it. The mathematics is, like off the radar. This example, they're trying to tell you that this citadel here in Lille, in France, was built when there's supposed to be humanities on horse and carriage, and still throwing buckets of piss out of the window, apparently. Bring out your dead. That sort of mentality. Yet they're building things that look like something out of Star Trek. You can see how it cogs in, how it fits in, and it's just twisted to, an angle just offset every time and bursting out. That's fantastic. That is mind-blowing. What is going on with them? I think they were probably resonating, giving off a frequency, an acoustic frequency. This is the hedgehog style, we call it. This is Hamburg's star fort in the past, and the entire city is inside it. What you're going to find for the bombing campaigns of World War I and II is they were attacking star forts. Rotterdam, the entire centre was blitzed, even though the mayor had surrendered, and all you see is inside of the star fort destroyed. Outside is still standing.
That's crazy.
Same for Ypres. Yeah, the Ypres salient in the World War I. All you see is the Ypres salient, the star fort predominant. Everything inside there is vanished. They're hitting the star forts with modern day. They're still hitting these in the last wars. So yeah, Hunningen on the Rhine is something scientific going on here. I can't quite make it out, but look, this one on the one side, and this year is just super futuristic. For people, apparently, with rudimentary cannons and muskets and stuff, there's no need for something that looks like that. The top bit looks like it might be a piston, you know, that pushes in and out. Like the whole thing looks like a side slice of a one-cylinder engine is what I see. Okay, but more fractal or more geometrical. Look at that.
So these would have been built prior to cannonading, right?
Yeah, well, I got one narrative I found in an old Dutch book, where a Polish book, where some guy, he went to the Polish king and he said, look, all of these forts that are all over the countryside, I think we should utilize them. So they were over the countryside and they weren't being used. So these things were there already. I'll show you some evidence of these things being blitzed in some extent. But these things were there already. I think after a reset, they've been repurposed. I think these things go super deep, and I think they're some sort of doorway or a way to get to this underground world.
Okay.
Because the Hopi Indians, they said, who built all of this stuff? You know, where they're from? Oh, the people? Oh, they arrived from the stars. No, did they mean the stars? Or did they mean the star forts?
Yeah.
So, food for thought. You know, they go into the efforts. You know, you can look at the, how defined they are.
Hey, total Lutter Nutter said Jason should start a new channel. Martin just stole this one.
Oh, I'm only borrowing it for 10 minutes, bringing some map stuff to you guys, and then it's down to Jason. But you can see here, this is one off of Sylvia's channel, New Earth, megaliths.org, and she's captured, the remnants of a star fort, but what looks like a mud flow that is half on it and half over it. Okay, you can definitely see the rest of the star fort is missing under this, what looks like a mud flow, exactly like a mud flow. So yeah, there's a lot. I've been in a star fort myself. I went in one a year ago in England. So imagine an event like a Phoenix event, and maybe if it came from the west, whatever, okay, and then it skips and rips apart the whole of North Africa, the whole of Arabia, across the Levant, across Persia, and then it lands on the Mongolian Eye, the Gobi Desert, exactly where that aquifer is being showed in the old maps.
Wow.
Isn't that a coincidence? And then you can see the line.
Yes, you can.
And it ends there, sort of thing. Like something's just like, some sort of...
And it doesn't continue in the Americas.
No.
Because that exact same line is nothing but jungle with a bunch of Mayan and Olmec. It's all Oaxia in Veracruz State.
Yeah, you can attribute that to being an equatorial thing. Because
that's the spin they put on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense. Because if you look at the Americas, you don't see that same line of desert. It's all jungle straight across the Yucatan.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's only there, isn't it? You can see a similar thing where Australia and South America is. South Africa, I'll show you in a minute.
Is that the Tarim Basin?
Sorry?
Is that the Chinese Taklamakan Desert?
This is the Gobi Desert.
That's the Gobi?
In Mongolia,
okay. Right.
Yeah. And some of it
because they got a bunch of deserts in that area. They got the Gobi, the Taklamakan.
One of the biggest deserts in the world.
And the Tarim Basin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think... Great Western Desert is the second biggest, and I think that's the third.
That's amazing.
So Port Royal, Jamaica, a bit like Galveston in Texas. I went to visit the other day. It's got a little star fort on it. It was regarded as being the wickedest city in the world, and the whole city sunk into the sand.
It was a Phoenix phenomenon.
It was
I've told my viewers about Port Royal. It was a pirate city.
You got it.
And one day they woke up about 10 o'clock in the morning, and the ground was vibrating at such high intensity that people literally sank into the ground. They watched each other helplessly just sink into the ground. Thousands of pirates, man, tried to run out to their ships on the beach and in the water. They just sank into the ground. Men drowned in 2 feet of water because they couldn't stand up. All the sand underneath them, even the ocean was vibrating, but the vibration flattened the ocean all around Port Royal because the ground was vibrating. It was so weird, but the city remained intact, and it was just crazy that anything that wasn't on a solid foundation just sank into the ground. Moments later, the survivors were looking around. All the animals had gotten quiet. Everything was still a beautiful morning, and it was almost as if about 2,000 people didn't just sink into the ground in front of you.
Wow.
It's bizarre as hell. But yeah. Yeah, the liquefaction, that rapid liquefaction, highly localized liquefaction like that. That's a product of the Phoenix phenomenon.
Makes you wonder why they built this city on sand anyway, a sand spit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, it's a famous.
That's a famous destruction.
Yeah, really, really bad one.
Kept a lot of people away from Port Royal after that.
So yeah, there's that swathe there. So imagine, and then it's landed there, and that is what was an aquifer. So some heat has evaporated, unless it is under the Gobi Desert, which is crazy. A possibility. There's the eye there. As you can see, it's just north of Nepal.
It's all sand.
It's all sand.
It's all sand now.
There's a river there, but yeah, so that would have been full of water, I guess.
Somebody made a really interesting comment on another channel. I think it was Static in the Attic, because I was going through his comments one time, and they said if you really want to know what the old world looked like, just put water, just draw new maps and put water everywhere you see sand.
That's a good one.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
I thought about that ever since.
I think I'll do it.
Everywhere you see sand, just put water and you'll see what the old world looked like.
I'll do that. Yes, good idea. Static in the Attic. I'll give you that. So that's how many star forts are in Europe alone. That many.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
have you done a Google of North America? Because there's quite a bit in
I have. I got a collection. I got from a famous star fort guy called Ghibli, who's in Ireland, and he made a video, and it just shows you all the American ones. It's like hours and hours and hours of star forts. You wouldn't even believe. Statue of Liberty is built on a star fort, guys. Fort Wood.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's the literally around New York. New York itself was a star fort. I've already posted about that a month ago. The whole thing. There was star fort, Liberty Islands, Governor's Island, all star fortage, and across in Brooklyn. So not connected with maps, but I thought you might find this interesting because we're moving on now. I think that's it for the map for the moment with the maps. Is this happened in the Capitol building? Under the Capitol building, they dug it all out, and it exposed all of this. You may ask yourself, what is all of that under the Capitol building? So during the, I think it was the Reagan administration.
Capitol building in the United States?
Yep, that's the Capitol building there. If you can see all the pillars underneath.
So it has a substructure.
So yeah, apparently he was building bunkers and stuff, but it just goes to show that there's a massive, some sort of installation in front of the lawn, in front of the Capitol building. But you got what is this architecture here? What is these columns here?
It's old too, you're right.
It looks old. Yeah. I've seen other photographs where it looks like some openings going in and stuff. But yeah, so there's old world underneath the Capitol building, is what I'm saying. This is the map of heaven and earth, and it's a beautiful little map. It shows you giant beasts in what they called Antarctica, dragons, okay, and green trees, because Antarctica is nothing like what they tell us. And you've got one Great Lake, maybe two. Island California is connected, but you've got all of that land above, and all of these here, some of them are no longer there. And what you find is above it, they have purgatory. Okay, purgatory. You even got the ferry, the ferryman there.
All over the river Styx.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a beautiful little map. You show you comets up in the firmament there. Comets that are, attributed to being weapons like swords, and fiery stuff going on in the firmament as well. So they got the angels there, Michael, whatever. But yeah, that's heaven and earth map, the heaven and earth map. So interestingly, we've been talking about Admiral Byrd quite a lot. We were talking about it on Paranormies, talking about Operation High Jump, Fishbowl, etc. And here's Admiral Byrd in front of the azimuthal equidistant map in 1955. So, why would they use the flat earth map? There's no Antarctica on there when he's famous for going to Antarctica.
Right.
It makes zero sense unless they're just duper's delight and rubbing our faces in it, which is what's going on. Okay, so we're going to have a look at some comedy now. Just whip through a few of adverts from antiquity which are awkward, and they've used, let's just say, sex to sell. Okay, because sex sells. But this is a chocolate bar called Old Dick that was sold in the past. Okay, she likes Old Dick. Okay, so this is my Ladybird book. This is my favourite one. This is where I learnt when I was
You show this on your channel?
Oh yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
That's all I gotta know.
You won't get in trouble. All will be well. Nobody dies. It's fantastic. So my first joint, Ladybird book, I had that when I was 4 or 5. That's where I learnt. Okay. Oh, taste the bush. That's a nice wine.
You're pouring in my channel.
Whoa, I'm not. I lost my virginity, but I still have the box it came in. These are adverts. This is not me. Okay? Okay. This is a good book. How to Hurt Your Own Feelings.
Wow.
Yeah, that's important. And tablets you can buy these days. Finally a solution. Fuck it all. Okay, depressed, you got problems. Yeah, overworked, family troubles. Just take 4 fuck it alls daily. And then you don't even have to worry about things no more.
That's terrible.
Yeah, this is terrible, though. Enjoy the benefits of a cordless massager. Are you sure that's what it's for? Because I'm just saying, you know, if your daughter came, you know, across the room and she's like, got this near her face, I'd be like, can you put that away? So here's a pop group that I'm going to join, okay? I'm going to find these. The Martys. Look, they got really tight trousers on, guys. Look, that's obscene. So I'm going to get tight trousers on. I'm going to join the Martys. I'm going to be their lead singer, okay? Because I'm going to be famous. When will I be famous? This is a good book. Science fiction book by I.G. Green. The Quest for a Face and a Dick. Indeed, if you find yourself on another world without a face and a dick, that's the first thing you're going to want to do. The Ladybug book, The History of Fleetwood Mac. Here you go again. You say you want your freedom. Okay, I'm going to need backup. Karen is being a cunt. Yeah, Copper, Karen is being a cunt. Always. Okay, Jones says, I enjoy 7 inches every morning. I think she's talking about orange juice. That's just your bad mind, okay? But Joan Crawford, there's something definitely wrong with her.
Is that Joan Crawford?
That's Joan Crawford. That is Joan.
Wow.
That is Joan Crawford.
Wow.
She had some sort of weird case going on. She's a bit of a nutter, but that might be just the film. This is disgusting. This was hanging up in America, okay? It's amazing what you can do with just 2 fingers and a thumb. Oh boy, sure can work up a first. Now that is really disgusting, but there you go. That's the adverts. 7-Up, guys. Yeah? Weird thing is you only got 5 fingers. This was for political campaigning for Richard Nixon. So everyone wore badges in America which say, they can't lick our dick, or we like dick, or well done dick. So this was campaign measures. I don't know what the lobbyists were thinking. They might have been on drugs. I don't know. Ooh, this is a good advert. Fabulous baking points. Our muffins are moist and sticky, just like Fanny's. What? That's all right, Jason. That'll be all right. Okay. Taco Bell destroyed my anus. That's a very sad story.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Oh, what about men love Fannies? That's true. That's true. Okay, we're moving on. Have you seen this Ladybug? Famous children's tale.
Ladybird book?
Yeah, Rumple Foreskin. Have you heard that one? Yeah, it's a happy tale. Okay, how to find your evil twin in the back of your mind. That's not me, though. Okay, we accidentally amputated your dick. What the fuck? Ma'am, I need for you to calm down.
That's terrible. Oh my God, it's terrible. Runaway Train said, this show has gone off the rails.
Yeah, we're going off the radar. We're going to live it up, guys, yeah? We got some fuck-all spray here. Keeps idiots and assholes away for up to 4 hours, okay? This is what we were using in the last 4 years. Also, we were using this Wiener Cleaner soap, okay? You don't need instructions how to work that, okay? And this was an advert for Burger King. I think that's really wrong on so many levels, okay? Blow one and swallow. And they are cheeky enough to do that. But there you are. So, happy times in playgrounds in 1900. Yeah, you could fall 40 foot, break your neck, no problem whatsoever. No one is going to actually tell you off or anything. All is good, okay? And that is in the playgrounds of old.
Damn.
Ja, I was going to cover that. Auschwitz.
Om kon kletsen over de haan.
Oké, nou dat kan.
En de ellende met de haan vooral.
Dan sta je uit je nachtdienst, sta je 's morgens hier zo de geluid van de haan op te nemen.
Wisten jullie toen dat er in de buurt ergens een haan was?
Daar hebben wij last van de haan.
Nou, daar zit die haan weer.
Je zou er bijna van gaan verhuizen.
Ja.
Sorry mevrouw, ik was helemaal op de haan gefocust.
De haan verzit ons leven.
Maatschappelijk